Maybe the best player the Cowboys acquired this offseason wasn't George Pickens. At least if Brian Broaddus is to be believed about yesterday's practice. We'll talk about that here in a sec in Below the Belt, which is sponsored by D&M Leasing. You can check them out at dmautoleasing.com. It was an offensive day for the most part out at practice yesterday. Cowboys with their second minicamp practice. They're going to practice again today, which is a little unusual for them. In past years, Mike McCarthy had always given the third day off of minicamp.
I think Vrabel just gave them off in New England.
It's a common thing coaches will do. Like a lot of coaches will say, we need to maximize our time. Let's do that. Other coaches will say, let's do it as a morale boost. Give the guys a day early. A lot of times when it's a first-year system, though, or a first-year head coach, they're definitely going to take the third day because it's like we need as much time as we can with what we're doing. So they are going to practice today. And one guy who is looking to build on a really strong practice, and a guy who's gotten a lot of praise. And Broaddus was talking about this yesterday. I heard him. I knew. I texted Zach and Eric a couple things, like a couple notes. Like, I bet you these are going to be a couple of things you're going to hear from Broaddus in there. Because I know when Brian watches a game.
Was he giddy being out there and being late to G-Bag?
He looked like, I should have taken a picture of it. When I walked into the lobby and he had his backpack on, he looked like first day of school kid, just like giddy, and he was just like, so do they
all about the tuna?
Are we in the right place? Do they come get us here? Because nobody's around here yet. Like, it's like, no, not everybody was gonna get here 15 minutes early like you, Brian. Like we're all here. But it was Brian was super excited to be there, and he was super excited about what he saw from Kaiir Elam, who Kaire Elum has had some strong practices out here. Not every day. There have been a couple times where he's been worked over in a practice, or you had the practice last week that we had talked about where George Pickens had beat him deep, but a little bit of air under the ball. So Kaiir Elam was able to catch up, knock the pass away. It's good. There was another play where I think Tuesday where people were talking about, he had an interception or he knocked one down. It's like, well, it was also a free play. So like it was just that kind of throwing the ball up because there was a penalty on it. So some of it, when you start tracking the training camp stats, which we'll get into here in just a second from Kyle Shanahan and why he hates that. When you're tracking the training camp or the OTA or the minicamp stats, it's looked good. But the reality is it's actually looked good. This isn't like empty stuff. He's looked better than I was anticipating. And it does give you a little bit of hope for, all right, this was a guy with first-round pedigree from a couple of years ago. This was a guy who everybody in Buffalo was like, we wanted it to work, and he worked so damn hard. It just wasn't clicking here. And so it does give you a little bit of a feel of like, could it be just a reset for your background or your scenery? Or the other question, is this just kind of what Kaiir Elam does? Does he flash in practices like these?
Yeah.
And then when you put the pads on or you're in game time, is it not the same level?
Schottenheimer was talking about him last week, like leading kind of the GPS stats.
Dude, he is intense at practice. He runs all over the field. He's been tasked a lot with covering CeeDee. Just because a lot of times it's where CeeDee's lining up, he's lining up. It's not like, hey, go take CeeDee, show us what you got, kid. It's not like that. But he's had some really good reps against CeeDee. CeeDee's gotten his, no doubt about it, but he's been really good. He battles, he's tough, he fights. It's all this positive stuff that you've heard about Kaiir Elam. If you can just kind of center it all together, put it all together, you might have a decent starting cornerback on your hands.
I bet you a lot of guys have that one player they just can't, that they just match up well with.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly guys who stylistically match up well, or
size,
or
whatever.
Yeah, where it could just be like, that may be a really good press man corner who doesn't have a lot of great long speed, but this one receiver who's really good against everybody else, he doesn't like physicality. That causes a problem for. Like, Josh Norman was getting torched by everybody in the league there for a while, except Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham was the one guy who was like, couldn't do anything against Josh Norman. He'd get in his head and he'd frustrate him. But this is at least positive development there in the secondary with Kaiir Elam. Another positive development in the secondary, we saw Donovan Wilson out at practice for the first time yesterday. So this entire offseason, Donovan Wilson, Sam Williams, they've both been rehabbing with Britt Brown and getting themselves right. They haven't participated at all, never put a helmet on. Yesterday, we got a surprise from 3 guys putting helmets on, and 2 of them were injured players. So Donovan Wilson got in line with the safeties, went through some of the drills. Same thing with Sam Williams going down with the defensive line. They just went through the position drills. As soon as team stuff started, they went back inside for treatment, did their thing. But the other surprising aspect that we got was none other than Micah Parsons. Micah, who had observed practice on Tuesday, was watching the drills on Wednesday, and at least looked, it could have been theater. It could have been theater. And Aiden's got some of the photos up on the fan cam where you can see him. He's staring down at the drill, and then you see him just kind of putting the helmet on, pulling it down, and then all of a sudden he's down there and he's in line. It looked like Micah Parsons' competitiveness just got the best of him.
And I wanted to know earlier today whether Micah's agent knew this was going to happen. What was the text message or phone call that he got from David Mulugeta, or did he know that this was planned? I think I'd be texting Micah, stay the hell off the field.
I assume he has to know. That's my assumption.
It looks like and sounds like it was
spur of the moment.
Although Schottenheimer did say before this week he expected Micah to do some things on the field.
Yeah, and then Micah had. I think Micah had said if his back had loosened up, that's what he was dealing. He's like, my back's kind of tight.
Yeah,
but he said if it loosened up, he was going to get in there. It did not look like he was going in there though. It looked like, all right, this is the standard thing he's doing. He's got his beanie on. He's not got a helmet. He's standing there just watching. And then he put it on. Here's my question for you. As you've called him before, Micah Doncic. A little bit of theater there with him. Do you think this was theater at all? Go grab my helmet. I'm going in. Or do you think he was probably always getting in there?
I have no idea. I would have probably had to be there to watch him over the past few days. I don't know whether Jerry said something to him in the 30-minute conversation the day before. To spurn it like, hey,
what's your point?
I want you to really be the leader. Like, just do something to inspire these guys, and then we'll go ahead and get this thing done.
Don't tell me what I'm saying.
I have no idea.
He embraced it. It was.
What do you think?
I think.
Was it planned or just spur of the moment?
I think it looked genuine. Like he wasn't going to get in, at least not right then. Maybe he was going to get on some stuff later, but I don't think he was intending to get in there, and then he saw it, and he was like, give me the helmet. Come on, let's go. Because I think he was getting a little bit frustrated. I mentioned a second ago, Kyle Shanahan, not a fan of tracking practice stats. This is something that irritates him. This was a quote he gave to the San Francisco media.
Like your Dak stats yesterday?
That's exactly.
Okay, so you're not talking about like quarterback 5 for 7. Or you're talking about GPS stuff?
No, like the quarterback, how many they completed, for how long, literal NFL statistics in practice. And this is what he said. He said, I'm trying to get them to trust what they do and let it rip. That's all I want in practice, talking about quarterbacks. He says, you go through all these practices and you never throw a pick, you're probably not getting better. I think that's one of the biggest challenges having you guys around. No offense to you guys, but they used to not report people's stats every day and say who's ahead, who's back, who's whatever. You could just practice. And when guys play to practice that way, they don't get better at anything, and especially a quarterback. I mean, it's hard when you get in that stadium and things like that. Not only are you getting it hit for the first time, but now all that stuff counts. I get what he's saying.
I love it.
I get what he's saying.
The Jalen Hurts numbers last offseason and not throwing an interception for a month.
Yeah, right.
100%. Like Cam Ward. There was the note about Cam Ward throwing 18 straight completions the other day. A lot of that can be checked down, different stuff like that. And I get what you're saying about you don't focus on that. Let guys practice, let guys work through stuff. Just like spring training.
A lot of the great quarterbacks, I'll tell you, ask Brady, ask Manning, ask Rodgers. They had no problem throwing picks in practice because they knew, first of all, it didn't matter. You get it back. But second of all, it allows you to see what works and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. Will this play fool anybody? Oh, no, it won't. Or does this work? Does that work? And if it doesn't work, not to use it. Or to pull it out in, very certain situations. Okay, you know what? Can't use it in this against this defense. Let's try it again against something else. I totally agree. I mean, I'm like, yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I don't fault him either. I think Kyle Shanahan's generally right. That you don't tracking practice stats is not always productive. I think when we're looking at how is somebody performing in 7-on-7 and 2-minute drill and things like that, you're not just working on some things. You are trying to execute. There's a competition there of who's better, who's not. I'm not going to I'm not going to track practice stats and hold that as here's the entirety of it. But what I am going to say is Jack Sanborn gave up 3 touchdowns yesterday to tight ends in coverage as a linebacker. That seems to me to be kind of relevant. I don't think Jack Sanborn's just working through some stuff, which I know is not what you're saying. Is
right,
that?
But look at the U.S. Open. We talked about the putting from 150 yards on the first hole. They try it in the practice round. They just see it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then they'll bury it and they'll go back to their normal way. But if it works, hey, great. And that's I have no problem with tracking the stats, but you use them to it's one data point out of a dozen.
Sean, I'm curious for you because I know we're obviously I'm on the beat covering it every day. you guys are not like,
yeah.
No, I'm just saying like the context for how we're working Cowboys coverage can be a little different in the ways it plays out. So I'm saying, for me, I may have a hesitancy of like, is this productive to tweet like a video from training camp or something like that? Like if I see a throw, I'm going to be like, nobody's going to have the right context for this and what it means, and it's just going to like be I feel like then I'm maybe stirring up a thing of like, oh, this guy's really struggling or something like that.
Yeah.
That was the thing with the one-on-ones. McCarthy, I think to his credit, McCarthy didn't want to do. He didn't want to do a lot of one-on-ones in training camp because he felt like corners are going to get, if I got corners with rabbit ears, they're going to get embarrassed out here because of the nature of the drill.
Yeah.
And it's going to look bad.
Was it the Diggs video that blew up a couple years ago? Who was it that got beat?
Diggs was getting worked a little bit in some of the one-on-ones.
Or maybe it was a fight or something like that. Maybe it was Diggs. Guyton, we got fooled by Guyton versus Micah.
Mm-hmm.
We got fooled. Now, if George Pickens makes a gymnastics catch, that to me has value.
Translates, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, he's a freak. If Joe Milton throws a missile or throws one 80 yards, it's like, when Joe does it again, I'm like, all right, he's got arm strength.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the value of it.
It was a pretty bland day, by the way, for Joe Milton since he comes up here. But again, I think they might look at that and say it was a more productive day. Like, we don't have Joe Milton. We know what he can do. We know he can sling the ball. Shan, like RJ, you guys are going to have viral videos on Twitter when you park down by the net and Joe Milton's throwing those passes in Oxnard. That's going to get retweeted hundreds of times because it looks really impressive and it's awesome. He was spending a ton of time with Steve Shimko, the quarterback coach, yesterday, talking through things. A lot of it looked like it was more underneath. It looked like the stuff that's boring, quote unquote, to people are probably things that the Cowboys think he really needs to work on and drill down on. But kind of a generic practice from him yesterday. Did have a nice touchdown pass to Jonathan Mingo, though.